What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Yammy Noob. Glad you could join me today. Glad you could be with me today here. You could have chosen all kinds of videos, but you chose this one because you're smart, because you know what's up. Title of today's video is Does Crashing Make You a Bad Rider? And kind of what makes a good rider. You know, what is it about motorcycling that makes people want to be a good quote-unquote rider? I got a lot of thoughts on this. This is a topic I've been thinking about for a while, trying to, you know, kind of come up with my thoughts on this thing, kind of come up with what I want to say about it. And I think I've got a good kind of cohesive theory about it, so we'll see what you guys think. And of course, as you guys know, this is our Honda CB650R. It's our giveaway motorcycle along with our Ninja 400 and our DRZ 400, so click the link down below. You've only got one more week left to enter to win as the posting of this video. It's going to be March 1st or February 29th, so March 7th is the last day to get your entries, so hit the link down below, sign up for a package, get yourself 10x entries for every $1 you spend. So if you go on our website, yammy.co, and you sign up at $10 a tier, or $20 a tier, you get yourself 100 entries or 200 entries accordingly. So without further ado, let's jump into this topic for today. Oh, this bike is good. Alright, so what makes a good rider, right? So I've got this theory about motorcycles that I've been thinking about for a little bit, and I equate it because it's my other passion in life, and it's music, right? So you think about what makes a good musician, right? What is a good musician? Is it someone who can shred on guitar really, really fast and play some super technical licks? Or is it someone who can, you know, pull together a really amazing song on a laptop, right? And they don't know how to play any traditional instruments. Who is the best musician? And hopefully what you're getting out of this so far is that, honestly, it doesn't really matter, and it's kind of hard to compare the two, right? It's almost like, you know, who's a better motorcyclist? A pro motocross rider or a cross-country tour adventure rider kind of guy, right? It's really hard to compare the two. So I don't really know if it makes sense to, you know, sit there and make comparisons between two styles of motorcycling, because at the end of the day, motorsports is exactly what it sounds. It's motorsports, right? So if you treat motorcycling like a sport and you actually, you know, want to improve and you want to reduce your lap times and you want to get objectively faster than the other guy, that's how you know who is a better rider in a competition environment. But if you're not in a competition environment, it's hard to say who's a good rider and who's a bad rider. I think for a lot of guys, they are street only, and so they're trying to come up with who is a better rider. And on the street, there is no better. All there is just safe. Like, do you make good decisions when you're trying to get from point A to point B? That's all that matters on the street, honestly. You should definitely not be trying to engage in any competitive activities on the street. You shouldn't be trying to race your buddy down your local mountain pass, because that's a recipe for disaster. You should keep that stuff to a closed environment. If you want to find out who is objectively the best, you should definitely go to an environment where you can actually test and push yourself. So on the street, I think there is no good rider. All there is someone who is smooth and safe. That's all that matters on the street. All that matters is you're obeying all your rules, you're smooth, you're safe, you're not endangering yourself or anybody else. That's a good rider to me. But when it comes to different disciplines of motorcycling, right, you have your road racing and track day kind of guy, you have off-road, you have different flavors of off-road riding, you have adventure, you have enduro, you have motocross, you have supercross, you have freestyle motocross. Like, motorcycling really is a lot like musical instruments, right, where some of the skills translate. So me, for example, I've been playing guitar for, I don't know, 12 years now, maybe more. How old am I? Yeah, about 12 years I've been playing guitar. And if I had committed to that act in a very studious and extreme way, you know, I could probably be close to virtuoso level at this point if I had decided to dedicate my life to it. But, you know, that's not what I wanted out of it. I got to a point where my skills on a guitar were enough for me to accomplish what I wanted to accomplish with it. You know, I learned all my fundamentals, chords, theories. Let's get down a gear here. And then using that knowledge, I'm able to create songs, which is what I wanted to do with it. So the point that I'm trying to make here is, you know, you should learn the skills to accomplish the goal you're trying to accomplish, right? So if you're an off-road rider and what you want to do is tackle the trails with your buddies on a weekend and just drink some beers afterward and have some fun, you don't need to be Graham Jarvis and be able to, go to a hard enduro event and complete it or whatever. I mean, sure, that would be cool, but you don't necessarily need those skills to have a good time and accomplish what you want to accomplish on a motorcycle. Conversely, if you're just a street rider and all you want to do is just, go out for a nice ride on a weekend, make it home safe and sound to your family, have a nice dinner and call it a day, dude, there's nothing wrong with that, I don't think that everybody should engage with motorcycles in a competitive and sport-like environment. I just happen to do it because I think it's fun. I really like the idea of pushing myself and competing and really getting good at something. It's just something that ticks in my brain. It's a lot of fun. But I think there's definitely a case to be made where, you have enough skills to do what you want to do with a bike. There's nothing wrong with that. And also, thinking about it this way, there is nothing wrong with being good at one discipline of motorcycling and not really thinking about the other ones, right? Like, for example, if you are an off-road rider, you love off-road, you go to single tracks, you maybe attend a couple, hair scrambles here and there, you have some fun with it. There's nothing that says you must also be into track days, you must also ride on the street, you must also do a trials bike type of thing. Nothing about, there's no grand rules of motorcycling that says you have to do something like that. Rev, 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 rev. This little bike is fun. I'm really going to miss it when we give it away. So what was I saying? Yeah, so you don't have to engage in every single discipline of motorcycling. But if you're trying to be competitively the best motorcyclist you can be at your given craft, let's say you really want to tackle single track and you want to be just like super good at it, it would probably behoove you to explore road racing and track days because it'll probably make you better. Just like it'll probably make you better at road racing and track days if you experiment a little bit with off-road riding. It's a big reason why the GP guys practice off-season on flat track and motocross, because it just helps them build up the skills. But those guys are professionals, Again, if you just want to be a dude that just has a motorcycle and treat it like a hobby, dude, no shame, So getting back to the original point, does crashing make you a bad rider? Well, it depends, it really depends on the situation and what's going on and what has led you to crash, right? I think the person who crashes multiple times under the same circumstances probably needs to reevaluate their riding abilities and question what it is they're really doing. So let's say you've been riding for 3 months and you have a little bit of low side because you got a little overconfident in a corner and the front just washed out on you, right? No harm, no foul. Happens to a lot of us. No worries. If 6 months later you have another low side in exactly the same situation, okay, that's not great because you should have probably learned from the first one. And then let's say another 6 months after that, you have another low side on the street in the same situation, and this is all for street riding, in the same situation again and again. Then at that point you should probably ask yourself, okay, what is it that I'm doing that's causing me to continuously low side this bike? Why is this happening? I think the quote-unquote bad rider is one who doesn't ask themselves questions about what it is they're doing and how to improve this given task they're trying to accomplish. If you keep doing the same thing over and over again and you keep messing up and expecting different results, it's like we all know that's the definition of insanity, right? So I think there's definitely something to be said for those kinds of people. But, if you have a couple of crashes on the street, that doesn't make you a bad rider. I mean, things happen. It's not a big deal. Like, I would never turn to someone who has crashed and say, oh, because you crashed, you're a bad rider, and now you're just quoted as bad forever. That doesn't make a lot of sense, And it's even more so when you consider someone participating in a competitive environment. If you're doing off-road, single track, if you're doing track days, that kind of stuff, I think you definitely should think about, how you're going to go down, especially if you're doing off-road riding, man. Like, everyone I've talked to who's done off-roading, myself included, you're going to drop that bike, you're going to crash it every once in a while. Like, it's just part of the game when it comes to off-roading. But, track days as well. Every single experienced track day rider that I have met, you know, myself included, I'm getting up there to being kind of experienced. I definitely don't want to classify myself as that, lest I get publicly hanged on the internet. But, you know, a lot of these guys have, you know, beat up leathers, and, you know, they basically got a situation where, you know, they've crashed multiple times, because when you're in that environment, you're there to push, you're there to learn, you're there to explore the limits of your bike and yourself. For example, at Eagles Canyon Raceway, where I'm a member, I think pretty much every single member that I'm close with and I talk to has crashed. I can't think of a single member that I know who hasn't crashed. And there's a bit of a saying that goes with that as well, whereas if you're participating in a competitive motorcycling environment, it's really not a question of if you'll crash, it's kind of when. Because if you're pushing, that's the point of it, right? That the point of it is for you to learn and to get better. And if you're not crashing, you're probably not pushing hard enough or exploring. Now, that's not to say that if you've never crashed a bike in a competitive environment, you suck. But, you know, maybe it is to say you're playing it a little safe. And speaking of transferable skills, you know, I was talking about how I've been playing guitar for a long time. Because I've played guitar for a long time, and I have that knowledge of chords and of, you know, just general theory about music, I'm able to sit down at a piano and start trying to figure some stuff out, even though I'm not the most gifted piano player. You could probably also sit down at another instrument and just, you know, once you get the hang of it, just start piecing notes together. The same thing applies in motorcycling, right? If you are an off-road rider, and I'm thinking of a video I saw the other day, I think Rocky Mountain ATV, they put out a video where one of their off-road riders went to a track day on an R3, and he looked so disjointed and so awkward. It was really, really funny to see, but it reminded me so much of how I looked when I first did my first kind of off-roading excursions. It was so clear that I was out of my element and not doing something that I'm, you know, naturally good at. But again, you know, because he understands fundamentally how a clutch works, how a transmission works, he's able to jump on that bike and then, you know, ride it at the track because he was off-roading. But those skills don't transfer perfectly. Just because you're an off-road rider doesn't mean that you'll also be a really good track day rider. In fact, it's probably the opposite, just like it was for me. I was not a good off-road rider just because I'd done a lot of road and track stuff. So okay guys, if someone tells you that you're a bad rider because you've crashed, if you're a newer rider and you've had a bit of a spill or something like that, it really doesn't mean that you're a bad rider. All it means is that maybe you made a mistake, and as long as you're learning from those mistakes, you can't really ask for much more than that. If you've had a situation where you've had a crash or you've had a bit of a spill and maybe you dropped your bike in a parking lot, don't fret it, man. People make mistakes all the time. It's why on my Instagram, I try to show you guys that, you know, I make mistakes too. The other day, I low-sided my Daytona at Eagles Canyon Raceway. Now we're prepping it and fixing it to be a track motorcycle, or a race bike rather, to compete in CMRA. The other day, I think in January, I went out with the little RC390 and, you know, low-sided the bike in a really stupid situation. I was out in lap 2, tires were cold, and I just decided to send it, and I got what I got, you know. The bike slipped out from underneath me. Personally, I don't think that makes me a bad rider. That just means I made a slight error in judgment in a controlled condition, and it caused no harm to me or anyone else. So I think that's a good result if you ask me. Man, this bike sounds great. Gonna miss this thing. So guys, what do you think about this topic? I would love to hear your thoughts on it. Does crashing make you a bad rider? If you really think that, hopefully you'll reconsider after watching this video, because I don't think it makes you a bad rider. And also, if you're a road rider and you've never crashed and you've never done anything like that, I also would say, you know, don't sit there and be all high and mighty, because, you know, I've seen comments of folks who are like, oh, I've been riding for 10 years and I've never crashed a bike, so I'm really good. That doesn't really tell me a whole lot about your riding abilities or experience, because, you know, you could be a total weekend warrior and take your Harley out for, you know, 200 miles out of a month tops, and just in super relaxed conditions on the road on a straight line, you know, and you do that, you know, 3 or 4 times a year, and then, you know, you tell everybody that you've been riding for 10 years and you never crashed. So saying that you've ridden for 10 years and you've never crashed is not. It doesn't really indicate much to me, honestly. But again, just because you've crashed a bunch also doesn't mean that you're, an amazing rider. It really depends on the situations in which you've crashed. So yeah, I don't know. Just because you have a little bit of a spill on a bike doesn't mean that you're a good or a bad rider, in my opinion. There's a quote from a Fort 9 video. I'm probably going to butcher it, but I remember the gist of it, where basically Ryan over at Fort 9 was like, hey, I would rather see a bike that has a bunch of scuffs and scratches and is kind of beat up, because that means the person who is riding it, experienced it and experimented with it and wanted to have fun with it. Something to that effect. And I really like that quote. I think that really rings true and is, a great point to make. I love seeing bikes that are a little beat up, a little loved, a little well-worn, because that means that the rider in question pushed themselves a little bit and had fun with their motorcycle. Because at the end of the day, that is what it's all about. These things are awesome, and I hope that if you don't have a motorcycle, you are thinking of getting one, because it is super fun, and my life would never be the same if I had not started riding. I love these things so much, and it's why I try to tell everybody about them, because I feel like it's some well-kept secret that no one knows about, that we all just get to ride these things, guys. People haven't outlawed them yet, we just get to still have them, which is great. So anyways, with that, guys, I will catch you on the next one. If you haven't yet, do click the link down below and learn how you can win this motorcycle. We are giving it away in 7 days. We're not giving away 7 days. In 7 days, we conclude the drawing and the entries and all that. Then we're going to wait another 7 days so we get all of our mailed-in letters and all that. And then we're going to call it on the 15th of March. We will be giving this bike away, the Ninja 400 and the DRZ 400. We will be giving all of them away to 3 individual winners, and it's going to be pretty sweet. So do click the link down below, sign up, and check out this bike, because you don't want to miss it. With that, I will catch you guys in the next one. See you later. I don't know why I did this. I never do that. See you later.